Hello, Oscar fans. It's me. I'm back. I just didn't need to do this as much because, the nominee predicting thing is kind of the allure of the whole Oscar process. But this is sort of my mid-point check-in on where I stand with the Oscar categories and where I think I'm voting to see ultimately if I can predict the winners. We'll see. You would think it's easier because predicting nominees, you're looking at like 200 films and you're trying to whittle it down to 5 nominees. Here you're like, oh, I just have to figure out which one of these 5. It's a little bit harder sometimes. Anyway, I guess let's talk about it. I'm John Stark from ActMovieGuy.com, your absolutely favorite blind film critic. And this is my Talking Oscars segment. And I'm going to run down the categories. I'm not going to be an asshole about it and start down at like some category that you're going to be like, editing, who cares? Let's start at the top. All right, so Best Picture. This is where if you're listening to other Oscar people predict, if they're predicting, I would say if they think any of the lower 5 films have a legitimate chance, they have no idea what they're talking about. There's no way. Women Talking, Triangle of Sadness, Avatar, Tar, or Elvis are going to win this prize. It's just not going to happen. They do not have the support. Some of them don't even have great overall scores. It's just they missed out on key nominations. They don't really have the groundswell. I mean, Women Talking is literally nominated in this and screenplay. It's not gonna win Best Picture. I know people are like, ooh, but Spotlight, and it's like, but they were nominated for more than that. So this is only nominated for those 2 things. So yeah, it's no, and Triangle of Sadness is kind of the same thing. It just also has a director nomination. It's got 3 nominations instead of 2. So yeah, some of these films are not. Avatar missed out on some categories in the tech sector that it probably should have gotten and then didn't get, so it got kind of under-nominated. Elvis, again, if they really loved the film, Baz Luhrmann would have beat out Ruben Östlund, so, he did get a Golden Globe nomination. It's not like it was that hard of a swing to consider him for this category. It missed out on some key places. And Tar is just, ask yourself, do you really think Tar is going to win? I mean, I think Tar has fans. Don't get me wrong. I think people will vote for Tar. I think people will vote for Elvis. I think people will vote for Avatar. I think people will vote for Women Talking. I think people will vote for Triangle of Sadness, because each one of those, I'm sure there's somebody who considers that their favorite film of the year. So yes, that's how they got here. They got here through ranked choice voting anyway. But I just don't think those numbers are very high. So the people, the films, the voters, they have to start, switching to other films. So the people who voted for films that didn't get in, that they thought Babylon was best film of the year, or The Whale, or The Women King, or RRR. Those people have to figure out what is my new number 1. And I think everybody's gravitating and will gravitate and continue to gravitate towards Everything Everywhere All at Once. I think that's the only film that has a true shot at winning. Now, if I had to say what's in second place, I think it's probably Top Gun Maverick. To be totally honest, I feel like Top Gun Maverick has this vibe where it sort of defines 2022. in a way that Oscars don't always pick the film that defines the year. So sometimes we look back on our Best Picture winners and we go, wait a minute, that's not the film that should have won. It gives us that kind of hindsight into the year. And you can't really understand why that film won in the first place. You've totally forgotten the fever and the sweep of that film ever existing. But with Maverick, at least we would look back on it and go, oh, yeah, it made a ton of money. Even if, 20 years down the line, we're talking about Tar being some great critical achievement and undervalued as a film, people would still look at Top Gun Maverick and be like, oh, that was a no-brainer. Yeah, of course. Okay. Sure. So it's really the only other thing that I think could win. I'm acknowledging also possibilities for All Quiet on the Western Front based on the fact that it has 9 nominations, which means that it has a lot of guilds that are still being forced to watch it. That's another thing that Women Talking does not have, is you have, everybody has to vote for their own guild, and then they also have to vote for Best Picture. So for Women Talking, you're forcing people in guilds that are not considering Women Talking to give the movie the time of day. It would just be really hard to do that in numbers so that Women Talking suddenly wins Best Picture. It's a lot harder. It's a huge uphill climb to do that. But for All Quiet on the Western Front, which is nominated in a ton of different categories, where all of those tech categories, the other 8 categories are all forced to consider it already, they're forming an opinion. And if that opinion is good, yeah, it could do it. I mean, that's 8 categories worth of popularity votes coming its way, which is the same thing that Banshees of Inisherin has. I believe both those films had 9 nominations each. So I'm not counting either one of those out. And I'm also not counting out The Fabelmans, because it also feels a little bit like a traditional Oscar winner. There's something that feels like it's the pre-assembled IKEA furniture version of Oscar winner of the category. I think it's going to lose out to the crazy fan favorite Everything Everywhere All at Once. I think there's too much push behind it. And A24 has gotten an Oscar winner before, so they know how to get here. And I believe that the film, it actually does not bode a whole lot of confidence in me that it has 11 nominations, because not always does the most nominated film win. So it doesn't actually do anything for me. However, it does mean that a lot of people are watching it, except for the fact that 4 of those nominations come from acting categories. So when you take out the Best Picture nominee and you take out the 4 acting nominees, really it's got 6 categories that are looking at it, whereas All Quiet has 8. So there you go. It doesn't actually have quite the strength that you would think it does because of the strength of the nominations, whereas All Quiet had no acting nominations. So it's all coming from below the line guilds, which are not as big as the acting guild. So again, lots of things to think about here when you're picking your top choice. I'm currently landing with Everything Everywhere All at Once, but I'm keeping my eye on the other 4, I will say. I'm not going to ever touch the other 5. The first, not happening. So Everything Everywhere for Best Picture. For Best Director, I don't really think this is going anywhere except for either the Daniels or Spielberg. I'm doing this before DGA and BAFTA, and I think DGA and BAFTA are going to say a lot about the direction this is going. If Spielberg is able to win DGA over the Daniels, it means that the Directors Guild is buying the narrative of it's been a long time. It's been a long time without you, my friend. Since Spielberg won an Oscar. It's actually been since 1998, Saving Private Ryan. That was the last film that he won Best Director for. So, it feels like when you say Spielberg that you think that he's just like reigning Oscars, but it's really not. That's really not the case for him. Um, so it's possible that for his own sort of this is my life and my story, that he could end up winning while Everything Everywhere still wins Best Picture. We've ever since we opened it up to 10 nominees and did ranked choice voting and everything, it's kind of split director and picture more often than it used to. This category used to always be okay, so whoever wins best director and best picture are going to be the same. It used to be that, but it's getting to be less and less of that. And as a matter of fact, it's really interesting because the last time Spielberg won, he won without his film winning, because his film lost to Shakespeare in Love pretty notoriously. We've all looked back on that and gone, fucking Harvey Weinstein. You know? Because Shakespeare won because Harvey knew how to campaign for an Oscar. And not because Shakespeare in Love is a film we all look back on today and go, ooh, best film of all time. So yeah, there's a path for Spielberg, and anybody who ignores that is they're too clouded because they love Everything Everywhere too much. That's the problem, is that sometimes people, they're like, oh, it's my film, so of course it's gonna win. I love it. And everybody else loves it, right? They love it exactly the same amount as me. Not necessarily. The Daniels is their first time up here. And previously their film was a film about, Daniel Radcliffe, farting his way across the ocean. So I don't know that the director's branch is necessarily chomping at the bit to give them the Oscar. I'm not going to say they're not going to give them the Oscar, but we're acting like it's like a runaway. I don't think it is. The other nominees, Ruben Östlund is just, it would be, I don't know. I just don't think it's going to happen for Triangle of Sadness. He's just such a long shot here. He was the 5th nominee anyway. He was the Who Will It Be? And traditionally those Who Will It Be nominations don't go on to win the category. Martin McDonagh, this is the first time being nominated for director. That's the achievement, is that he finally got recognized as a director instead of just a writer. So he's already sort of won. For Todd Field, maybe? If somebody told me, okay, so the best director winner, somebody came from the future and they're like, so the best director winner is not Spielberg and it's not the Daniels, I'd be like, Todd Field? Like that would be exactly where my brain would go. Because I think he has more of a directorial achievement in terms of what he tried to do here, and being compared to Stanley Kubrick is not like a little thing. We just don't walk around comparing everybody to Stanley Kubrick. Like, oh, Rob Zombie's The Munsters reminded me so much of Stanley Kubrick. Like, that's not how it happens. So, the fact that he was compared to one of the greatest directors of all time, yeah, I guess. But I think this is two horse race, and it will be decided by those others. And yes, I fully realize that Spielberg is not at the BAFTAs. So it means if the Daniels lose, they've lost to somebody who is less important than even Spielberg. It means that they lose to somebody like Martin McDonagh at the BAFTAs. So it goes to show you the swell of support is just not there. If they lose both of those awards, I can't see them winning the Oscars. If they lose one of them, depends on which one, if they win DGA but they lose the BAFTAs, I still think they'd probably win. So, but we'll see. Moving on to Best Actor. This is Brendan Fraser. I know, I look at the films and I go, what types of performances? They like transformative performances. They do. And they love redemptive stories. And Brendan's been walking around crying all over Hollywood about, you know, his second chance, and I mean, he's been around forever. I think everybody likes him, and has worked with Brendan Fraser before, and I think there are a lot of people rooting for him to give to him. They're all first time nominees, so they're all under the same narrative. Anybody is going from first time nominee to win. They're going straight to a win, whoever it is. Austin is young. He's at the beginning of his career. Yes, it is Elvis, and people keep bringing up Bohemian Rhapsody. But if you think about the two different films there, and they're they're not the same thing, and they're not the same performance. Elvis, because of the way Baz Luhrmann decided to tell the story in a weird way, at sometimes makes Butler the supporting character, because Tom Hanks's captain is sort of telling the story, so he's sort of just in the background performing. He's not quite given the same narrative that that we saw in Bohemian Rhapsody, that Rami Malek had, playing Freddie Mercury, where it felt more like a Freddie Mercury movie. It's not quite the same thing, so I think Brendan Fraser's going to have the edge here. I don't think the actors branch is going to punish him for the fat suit. I just don't. I don't think they're going to, because Austin Butler's wearing a ton of makeup as well. So if you're going to try to say something about wearing prosthetics and fat, why would you vote for the other guy that's wearing, you know, I mean, they have to age Austin Butler, and I don't know if you guys remember Elvis, but he got kind of big. So even though I can't see, I know Elvis at some point for Austin Butler at least became plus sized. So they're still putting a fat suit on him at some point. Maybe it's not the same to the same extent as what Fraser was wearing. But you don't go, I hate fat suits, and then vote for the other fat suit performance in the race. You would vote for Colin Farrell, you'd vote for Bill Nye, you'd vote for Paul Mescal. You wouldn't vote for the same, so it's not helping Butler. And the other three performances, I think Mescal is the longest shot. I think Nye is a long shot here. I think Farrell, there's a path here, but it's just not, I don't think it's a strong one. His performance is actually kind of normal for what the Oscars pick. So that's the greatest fault. They would have to really love Colin Farrell here and really not want to give it to Fraser or Butler. So I don't think the other two have a shot. Farrell has a little bit of a shot. I think it's mainly between Butler and Fraser, but I think Fraser's winning still. I'm going with Fraser. That speech that he gave at the Critics' Choice Awards is, I know people didn't, you know, that was like, how many people watched that live? Like 300,000 people or something like that. But it gets shared online, and then people see it. And it's the kind of speech that makes you want to vote for somebody. When somebody is, you know, you have two different speeches, and we're about to talk about the other one when we talk about Best Actress. And Cate Blanchett's speech, what are we doing here, guys? Why do we even have these? Why do we even have these awards? Like, she was very just sort of like flippant about her win, which I guess when you've won as much as she already has, you know, it's easy to say that after you've already been nominated, after the trophy's already in your hand. So I don't know how it's rubbed some people the wrong way, and she's actually actively campaigning for Andrea Riseborough. She was one of the people that was campaigning to get Andrea Riseborough nominated. So, do you vote for Blanchett for her third Oscar for Tar? Are we really doing that? Is that happening? You have somebody who basically said, don't give me this fucking award. Who actively is campaigning for somebody else to get the award. And it would be her third award in actually an even shorter period of time than Frances McDormand. When you talk about people who have won 3 times, Meryl Streep, obviously, it took her a while to get to the Iron Lady, to get to her third win. And she's got just an ungodly amount of, what has she had, like 18 nominations? It's just unbelievable amount of nominations, which Blanchett doesn't have yet. She's not at like 15 nominations. Her first win was for 2002's The Aviator, or 2000, yeah, it was 2002, right? I think I'm right about that. If not, it was 2003's Aviator. And then she won again for Blue Jasmine, and she won again, if she wins, it would be for Tar, which is like it's like a 20-year span, basically. She won 3 Oscars in 20 years. And meanwhile, Frances McDormand, who just won a couple years ago for Nomadland, was her 3rd Oscar. She won all the way back in like 96 for Fargo. And then she jumped all the way to 3 Billboards, was her 2nd. And then she won again for Nomadland. So, it's a little bit, you know what I'm saying? Frances McDormand won it and had been kind of going on a little bit longer than Kate before she won hers. It just feels like a really short window of time to give somebody a third trophy that they don't really seem to want. When you could give it to the first Asian in a leading category ever. Michelle Yeoh wouldn't just be the first Asian actress to win. She'd be the first Asian heritage to win in a lead category. There hasn't even been an actor that's won. So it's a groundbreaking narrative that's really hard to shake. So I'm currently leaning towards Michelle Yeoh, but I'm keeping my eye on Andrea Riseborough, because I do think that the Oscars little tiff with her is definitely made her more sympathetic, I think is the word. I don't think that they investigated that nomination because anybody in the actors branch, because there was like a faction of the actors branch that was like, this is unfair. I think, if anything, most of those actors have been in films like Andrea Riseborough's, with their, that make, very little money at the box office, but they feel like they gave a great performance. But unfortunately, it was a Sundance film, and it got picked up by some shitty-ass studio, and they released it in 2 theaters, so nobody saw it. Ideally, they would want more of those. They want the best performances. They should want the best performances, not necessarily the loudest performances, but the best Oscar campaigns. So, if somebody has to climb to the top of a tree to shout someone's name to get you to watch the film, then maybe that's what they have to do. There were some other small films this year that I would have loved. There were smaller films last year that I would have loved. So I'm upset at the actors branch. I'm upset about other things having to do with this nomination, because it's like, why Andrea Riseborough? What happened to all of the other tiny performances that never get that kind of love and attention? Why did this one work? Why did nobody champion any of the others? So why did it take this long to get to nominating a film that makes $27,000 at the box office? Because box office doesn't necessarily mean a performance is bad. It just means the distributor didn't put it in more theaters. So I think there's a path for Andrea Riseborough. I do. I would not be surprised at all at this point. I would be surprised by Ana de Armas and Michelle Williams. Ana she already broke ground. First of all, it's her first time being nominated, but second of all, she's the first actress to be nominated for an NC-17 film. So congratulations, you already made history. In the history books, your name will already be there. You don't need to win. You've already won some separate award where you broke a ceiling for people who have never been able to be taken seriously in an NC-17 film. For Michelle Williams, it's a supporting performance. She just doesn't have the screen time that everybody else does. I still believe that. I will always believe that. If Steven Spielberg told me it was a leading performance, I would tell him it's a supporting performance. Watch your own movie. You know, I'm that determined to believe that this is not the leading performance of The Fabelmans. She does not have the same screen time that her other nominees, especially Cate Blanchett. When you look at how Cate Blanchett is in almost, I believe, every frame of that film, and it's like a 2-hour and 40-minute film. How does Michelle Williams compare to that? How do you you just don't. So I'm leaning towards Michelle Yeoh for a history making. I think she's a strong contender anyway, and I think Cate Blanchett, the fact that she seems to not want to win, if she wins at SAG and gives like another like flippant speech where she's like, stop giving me awards. You know, yeah, she's campaigned for Andrew Riseborough, so she just doesn't want it. Why would you give it to her? Why would you give an award to somebody who doesn't want it? So, anyway, moving on to I'm not even going to talk about this. Supporting actress Ke Huy Quan. You can debate who you think is in second place, but I think there is no second place here. There just is no second place. Yeah, moving on. Best supporting actress is, I think it's a little bit more open than people think. I agree that Angela Bassett is in front. The tea leaves are spelling out Angela Bassett, but the tea leaves are also spelling out Marvel. And, you know, it was a huge deal to get Marvel their first nomination, period. This is the first performance from a Marvel film. And we're saying that kind of, you know, long time coming is also going to be long time coming for Bassett. Now, I buy into that narrative because I think for a lot of these other people, they voted for them because they liked the performance or because they wanted to get them in. They believe that this person should have a nomination. I think Jamie Lee Curtis was being voted for not because those people intended on giving her the Oscar, but because those people intended on giving her the nomination. The fact that Jamie Lee Curtis had never been nominated before, it was a much easier choice to make sure she was on your ballot so that she would get a nomination. But now when you're asking people to pick which one of these 5 goes down in history as the best supporting actress winner, that becomes a little bit tougher. And I think the people who were voting for Angela Bassett were voting for her knowing that the reason that you're doing so is that she's already been nominated and you think that she's overdue for a win. Because if you think she's overdue for a second Oscar nomination, that's a weird narrative. Just like, we haven't nominated you since, you know, What's Love Got to Do with It? So we want to make sure you get a second nomination in there. Congratulations. Thanks for coming to the party. The Oscar goes to Carrie Condon, you know? Yeah, I can see that happening, but it's a weird kind of narrative. Also, I will mention the fact that the lack of black acting nominees in the leading actress category, which still, to this day, only has one winner. Only one black actress has ever won in the leading category. It is still just Halle Berry. We have not been able to diversify that category beyond Halle Berry. So the fact that Danielle Detweiler and Viola Davis both missed out on nominations doesn't look good. Do I think that could possibly mean good things for Brian Tyree Henry or Angela Bassett? Sure, I do. But for Brian Tyree Henry, he was already sort of in the surprise category. Him and Judd Hirsch were already sort of in the, oh, we're lucky to be here. I just don't think that they can get enough to beat Ke Huy Quan. But Angela Bassett, if she's already the presumed frontrunner, if enough people go, well, hold on now, you're getting my Danielle Detweiler vote, I don't know. So I'm tentatively leaning still towards Bassett, but I'm keeping my eye on Carrie Condon. She's kind of a very safe second place. I don't think it's going to Stephanie Hsu because I think there will be some level of vote splitting between Everything Everywhere girls. But I also don't think Jamie Lee is going to win. But I'm sure people are voting for both of them. I just don't think it'll be enough. And Hong Chow, I think that was let's make sure she gets nominated. I think Carrie Condon has the strongest path here. She was kind of always projected to be nominated. She never really shifted out of the top 5. She was always a lock for this nomination while everybody else was shifting in and out of the race. She never lost her footing. If you go back to like the earliest predictions, Carrie Condon's been in here since day one. That says a lot about the confidence that people have in her performance. It could be the confidence in her being the second place in this category to Angela Bassett, but I think she's very much in this race. So look out for Carrie Condon. I guess Angela Bassett. If they don't want to give it to a Marvel film, I think they'll give it to Carrie Condon. So, best original screenplay. This is the race where we're going to talk about who are they giving it to. And most people are talking about how it's just between Banshees and Everything Everywhere. I think that's a fair debate. I think there's an outside shot for the Fabelmans. Steven just never writes. He just doesn't really get on that many screenplays. Plus, it's an opportunity to give it to Tony Kushner, who has never won an Oscar. So there is that narrative. There's a possibility. I don't think it's a winning possibility, but I think it's very much still in the race. I just don't think Tar and Triangle of Sadness are going to win here. I don't think they have. There's no real reason to be voting for them, sadly. So, but the nomination is the win, I guess. Yeah, it's between Everything Everywhere, which is original in its concept, and Banshees, which is original in its sort of dialogue. And writers tend to really like sort of writers love writers' scripts, not necessarily like visual spectacles. They're not thinking about the visual spectacle of Everything Everywhere all at once. They're thinking about the text, what's in the text. And the stuff is there, but it's a little goofy. These are people who actually have to read something in order to decide who wins. And Martin McDonagh, this is what he does, and he's already been here before. And I think it's entirely possible that he could win for Banshees. I'm leaning towards right now for Banshees of Inisherin for Martin McDonagh. I think it's quite possible that the Daniels lose out here for Everything Everywhere All at Once, and that they award the screenplay to the film that feels more like a writer's screenplay instead of a director's screenplay. Somebody who wants a lot of cool visual effects. It's the same reason why when you look over at the adapted screenplay race, there are certain films that didn't get in that are kind of visual spectacles. So, yeah. There's been a lot of talk about how it's still Sarah Polley's to lose. I get that. I understand that totally. My only counter to that is All Quiet on the Western Front, which I think is an interesting nominee here because the work is so well known that I think it's possible that people really know the original work. I don't know how many people know the original work of Women Talking, but you do know that everybody knows the original work of All Quiet on the Western Front. or enough people do. So they know how it was adapted, what the changes were that were made, and a lot of those changes have been embraced. A lot of those deciding to cut to the train sequences and kind of changing up the ending are changes that have been sort of applauded. So I think there's a possibility that Sarah Polley could continue her losing streak. She's lost a fair amount of these awards. Something tells me that All Quiet on the Western Front is not quite the bridesmaid that people are making it up to be here. So I'm leaning towards women talking, but I may switch it to All Quiet. I feel, that's kind of where I'm at in this category. So let's talk about cinematography, because this is a really interesting category for me. And this is one where I'm throwing caution out the wind. Everything's going out the door. Fuck everyone else. We're going to have a talk. Sit down and I hope you're still watching this part of the video, because this is really important for you to hear. The presumed frontrunner did not get nominated. Top Gun Maverick is not here. The film where they literally created a new way of filming didn't even get nominated. So what wins? And that's the question a lot of people have been asking. They've been trying to go, well, what wins? And a lot of people have different opinions on that. There's a very interesting Bardot nomination here. There's, All Quiet on the Western Front. By the way, only 3 of these films got ASC nominations, which is the entire guild. So it doesn't even really line up that well with the guild. So they did not nominate Elvis or All Quiet on the Western Front, which now a lot of people are saying All Quiet on the Western Front could win this category. This one's a bit all over the place and here's my thing. This is a category that historically, over the last bajillion years that the Oscars have been running, it's the last one. This is the final frontier. This has been a boys' club the entire time. Every single time they have given this award, it has gone to a penis. A penis has won this award every single time. We have one of the only, I believe she's the 3rd female cinematographer to ever even be nominated in this category for Elvis. And I looked her career up, and she's been around for a while doing DP stuff. She's DP'd a lot of different films. She was the DP on Mulan, on The Mountain Between Us. She worked previously before with Baz Luhrmann on Australia. She's obviously an Australian-born DP because when you go far enough back in her career, it's all like Australian cinema. It's like Lantana, and just a bunch of stuff that came out of Australia. So, it's Shattered Glass, if you like that film. She was the DP on that. So she's been around for a while. This is not some hot new DP coming in and they're like, oh, well, we should give it. This is somebody who's been working in the industry since the 80s. They need to break the glass ceiling at some point. And they took their number 1 choice out of the race. I don't know why. I don't know. I have no idea. I don't know what they didn't see in Top Gun Maverick or didn't like about Top Gun Maverick. So we don't really know what the front runner was in the nominations of who's where. But we do know that it's none of this is really impressive. There's nothing here that's really going to be like, because we're all going to be thinking about how it should have been Top Gun Maverick. Now, Elvis has an opportunity to create a moment in this thing, and the cinematographers have the opportunity to say, fine, we are now we've we're no longer the last category to have never given it to a female. we've we're finally doing this and giving it to Elvis. Based on their rate of nominating females in the category, I don't know when the next time will be that they will have an opportunity to do this. Considering like I said, I believe she's the third to ever be nominated. So, yes, I think it's possible here that Elvis wins. And I'm going on the gamble. I'm gambling for a glass ceiling. I'm gambling for that moment. I'm gambling for that, oh my God, look at that. Look at what we did. I do think that in a race where it feels kind of open and people are like, who am I voting for? That when they look and they see they have an opportunity, that some people will pick her because of her gender. She's here because of the good body of work. I think she got nominated because they generally enjoyed, on some level, the cinematography of Elvis. Otherwise, they wouldn't have nominated it. There are obviously female cinematographers all over the place. They just have a hard time getting here. She got here, and she's done work on a ton of other films. So this is not somebody new. I think she's gonna win. I'm gonna go with Elvis. Sorry. I've explained myself. Yeah. I don't know that I would go with Elvis if Top Gun Maverick had gotten the nomination, because it felt like everything was going. I mean, if you look at all the precursor awards, Top Gun Maverick won like all of them, and then it just suddenly didn't get nominated. It was just very bizarre. Granted, a lot of those awards were all coming from different critics groups and everything like that, who are not DPs voting on cinematography, so they were all just how we felt about the cinematography, but it should have been there. Okay, so let's go editing. Generally, the award here is what a lot of people like to say is pick the film that has the most editing. I think that's Everything Everywhere All at Once. I think that's probably the film that has the most editing. A lot of times this also aligns with Best Picture, so I'm going to go with Everything Everywhere All at Once for editing. Yeah, so that's my editing choice. Best Production Design. There's still quite a bit of talk about Babylon, and I understand it. I mean, they recreated Hollywood in a certain time period, so it's Hollywood voting for Hollywood. It's an interesting film, even though Babylon didn't quite register the same level of excitement and enthusiasm. Doesn't mean it won't win. I mean, there have been films that have won in tech categories that didn't get a Best Picture nomination. So I think if this guild loves Babylon enough and continues to love Babylon, I think Babylon is going to win Best Production Design. That's where my head is at. Breezing through these categories. For best costume design, she won it already. She won it last time. And this time she had even more great costumes to design. I mean, she had Namor and his entire people and population. There's no reason to believe that, what's her name, Ruth Carter, for Black Panther Wakanda Forever, there's no reason to believe that she won't win again in this category. So I think I'm leaning towards Black Panther Wakanda Forever here. For makeup, this is a race where it usually ties in with the winner, especially in a performance where it feels like we're here because of that performance. The Whale's lack of nominations, basically Fraser, Hung Chau, and makeup. So, I mean, we're here because of Fraser. So I feel like this is the Jessica Chastain factor all over again with The Eyes of Tammy Faye. And I think this lines up with Fraser. It's another reason I think Fraser's going to win. And yeah, okay, so there's a fat suit controversy. Well, fuck off. These people voted for this. These are people who do hair and makeup. They literally do fat suits for a living. You're not going to convince them. This fat suit controversy does not affect this population of people. This is what they do for a living. You're trying to shame the people who do what they do for a living. They're not going to not vote for it. They work with prosthetics all the time. This is what these people do. This is not like this is not an award that is voted on by any sort of like, sensitive group of liberal movie goers that are like, oh, his fat suit offends me. Those people are not voting. These are people who are the people who are voting are the people who made the fat suit and who have made other fat suits and who nominate fat suits. So there is no backlash here. He will win. The whale will win. I'm sorry. It just will. There's a slight chance that Elvis, because they had to do it twice in Elvis, they had to do it for Butler and for Tom Hanks. They had to do 2 sets of prosthetics. In that case, I would say that probably means Butler's winning. So, because I did say I think Butler has an outside chance, I'm not going to totally say the whale is just, a mile down the road of everybody else, but I think it's edging out Elvis right now. So, there you go. Best original song. I think we're all just assuming that this category will do the right thing and give it to Natu Natu. I think we're assuming that they'll do that. I'll go with that for now. I think when you're trying to pick between the pop songs, it becomes a little hard to choose which pop song to give it to. And then you have the Diane Warren thing, which I love that everybody is upset because Andrea Riseborough was nominated for a film that made $27,000 at the box. Find me somebody who has seen the film that Diane Warren was nominated for. Find me that person. It's such a hypocrite. It's so hypocritical. It's so much bullshit that they're all like, oh, Andrea Riseborough, it's unfair. It's like, well, you want nepotism? They keep fucking nominating Diane Warren for films nobody's ever heard of. Yeah, there we go. So applause for best original song. The thing is that they love to nominate her, but they love to also not give her the award. So I don't think this song is going to change that. I think it's Natu Natu. I think there's a swell. It's the only thing RR can win. Not that I think that the songwriters care, but it's their opportunity to recognize an entire genre of music that they haven't recognized yet. So either they will or they won't. It's hard to tell. They nominated it, so they liked it enough to nominate it. I'm guessing they like it enough to vote it to win and recognize an entire genre of music in doing so. Coming up on the list, best original score. There's a lot of talk about Babylon here. I think that's fair. It's Justin Hurwitz. He did not get nominated for First Man, though. Yes, people like him. Yes, he seems to be a front runner here. I'm going to make a case real quick, though, for the Fabelmans. John Williams retired. This is it. It's the last chance. Dude has 52 nominations. He's been in this voting body for so long, and he does not win nearly as much as you think he would. Out of those, he has, I believe, 5 wins out of 52 nominations. So it seems like a lot. Like when you talk about somebody who won 5 times, you're like, oh my God, that's a lot of Oscars. But when you talk about they have 52 nominations, you're like, oh, well, he's lost a lot. He has lost a lot. And he's also like 90 something, and he's finally decided to hang up his hat. Um, and I think that it's possible they might give it to him for the Fablemans. Whether you think it's the best score of the year or not, it's his last one. And there are people who now vote in this category who got into this category based off of the scores of John Williams. And if he's truly hanging up his hat and he's truly at the end and this is their last opportunity to give him an Oscar, to say thank you for the long career and thank you for the inspiration and thank you for the time, they could do it. I think I might end up going for the Fablemans. Justin Hurwitz has a long career ahead of him. Hell, Justin Hurwitz might even be voting for John Williams. So, yeah, it's very possible. So that's where I'm at with that category. Sound. I don't know. Everything's here for like a different reason. My gut instinct tells me to go with the war movie, to go with All Quiet on the Western Front. But also Top Gun Maverick for sound. I don't know that I could ignore that. That's tough. This is tough. There's also the possibility of Avatar. Anyway, it's just I think I'm gonna go with the whizzing bullets and the sound of All Quiet on the Western Front. But this is not a lock for me. And visual effects, but this is a lock. This is Avatar. I'm sorry. This is the least surprising. I put this down. This is down here. We're gonna whip through this category. I'm not even gonna bother talking about anybody else. Congrats on being nominated against Avatar. You're not winning. I wouldn't even. I mean, if you want to show up to the awards, fine, just for the fun of it. But whatever. It's you're not winning. Animated feature is Pinocchio. I don't know how else. So, and the only reason it wouldn't win would be if the animated branch just really fucking hates stop motion animation and they vote for Turning Red just because it's like traditional animation, or Puss in Boots, or like it's just, I mean, if they really decide that Pinocchio and Marcel and they don't want a stop motion animation to win, I don't know. I mean, it's hard to get inside the head of an animator, but the stop motion films take so much time and energy, you would think. So I'm sticking with Pinocchio. Foreign language feature, you have to go the common sense route here says that if a film is strong enough to break out and get a Best Picture nomination, that it's going to win foreign language or animated or doc or whatever. If one of those three also break out and get a Best Picture, then it would also win its own category. So, I don't know how they could not give it to anything but All Quiet on the Western Front. It just doesn't make any sense. My brain can't process that. Especially considering Decision to Leave isn't even here. What happened to that? Where did that go? All right. We're down to, I believe, documentary. I'm not doing the shorts categories. I'm sorry. I can't predict them. I literally, when I did my nominations, I just did whatever Gold Derby had at the top 5 at the time. I had a little bit of input with documentary short because I had seen some of them. But then I ended up getting screwed over anyway. So my favorite documentary short of the year, 38 The Garden, didn't get nominated. All right. So go your own way for those categories. But for documentary feature, I've heard pretty much all I need to hear about All the Beauty and the Bloodshed to know that that film just keeps coming up. I think it's the front runner here. So I'm going with that. I have seen Fire of Love. It's currently the only one, although I'm about to watch All That Breathes since it's just dropped on HBO Max. And I can't believe that Fire of Love would win. I mean, we've had IMAX movies for years, and I'm sure, even, I'm trying to think about like the visual person in me, because I know these people can see. Would I find it like really awesome to watch a film about volcanoes? Yeah, but I don't know that I've never seen that footage before. So I don't know. Um, so anyway, those are my picks. That's it. Thanks for staying with me through this massive list. And I'm only going to do this one more time. It's going to be right before the awards. I'll give you my final predictions. But that's where my head's at. So take some things into consideration. Yeah, I know people don't like to say that gender matters or race matters or anything like that. But sometimes it does, because we talk a lot about narratives. And if the narrative is there's a ceiling here to be broken, and in the case of cinematography, it's not even a glass ceiling anymore. That thing's like hardened over. They're gonna need to send like a rocket through it. They're gonna need to put some TNT on the ceiling and blow it open, because they've cemented over it. They built like there's like an entire city that's been built over the top of the ceiling. It's like an impenetrable seal force. Cinematography is trapped inside of a vault, buried underground. It's not your traditional ceiling anymore. So yeah, but also part of me just goes, they've never done it before. Why would they want to do it now? Why would a bunch of men want to let a woman into their club? Maybe they're just going to keep voting for dudes for the rest of their lives. Maybe I'll be sitting here talking about the 125th Oscar ceremony some year and be like, we're still waiting for that female cinematography win. You know? I have no idea. Maybe they never will award it. Maybe it'll just continuously go to men. But anyway. Thanks for watching. Thanks for tuning. Thanks for subscribing. If you're not a subscriber, please do subscribe. I also have a website, macmoovieguy.com. You can go there and check me out. And that's it for me today. So I will see you guys on the other side.